What if Superman joined the boys? Not the Seven. The boys. The grubby, morally questionable team that hunts superheroes for sport. Imagine the most powerful being in existence deciding that Homelander and his corporate-backed cronies need to be stopped, and the only people crazy enough to help him are a group led by a foul-mouthed British psychopath. This is how it would go down. Picture this. Clark Kent arrives in the boys' universe through some cosmic accident. Maybe a portal, maybe a dimensional rift. Doesn't matter. What matters is that he lands in New York City expecting the Daily Planet and the Justice League. Instead, he finds Vought Tower and the Seven. At first, he thinks maybe this is just an alternate version of his world. Different branding, same heroes. But then he watches Homelander for exactly 12 minutes and realizes something is catastrophically wrong. Superman doesn't need superhearing to detect the insincerity. Homelander's smile is plastic. His rescues are staged. And when Clark follows him after a publicity event, he witnesses something that makes his blood run cold. Homelander lets a building full of people burn because saving them wouldn't pull well with his demographics. Clark stops the fire himself, but by then he understands. These aren't heroes, they're products. He starts investigating Vought the same way he'd investigate LexCorp. Secret identity intact, Clark Kent gets a job as a reporter at a small independent news outlet. Within a week, he's compiled enough evidence to know that Compound V exists, that superheroes are manufactured, and that Vought has been covering up atrocities for decades. He writes the story. His editor spikes it. Vought. Vought owns the parent company. They own most media companies. Clark tries again at another outlet. Same result. He quickly realizes that traditional journalism won't work here. The system is too corrupted. That's when he hears about the boys, a 5-to-books team that actually fights supes. Led by Billy Butcher, a man whose hatred for superheroes is only matched by his willingness to cross any line necessary. Clark tracks them down to their hideout, walks through the door, and introduces himself. Not as Superman, as someone who wants to help. Butcher immediately pulls a gun on him. Clark doesn't flinch. That's your first mistake, mate. Nobody walks in here without flinching. Clark lets Butcher pull the trigger. The bullet flattens against his chest and drops to the floor. The room goes silent. Frenchie whispers something in French. Mother's Milk takes a step back. Hughie just stares. Huh? You're one of them, Butcher says, raising a different weapon. This one probably has Compound V poison or some Vought-engineered toxin. I'm not from Vought, Clark replies calmly. I'm not even from this world, and I've spent the last 2 weeks watching your so-called heroes commit atrocities while the world cheers. So either shoot me with whatever that is, or let me help you take them down. What follows is the most awkward team meeting in history. Butcher doesn't trust Clark. Why would he? Every supe he's ever met has been a narcissistic sociopath. But Clark offers something they've never had before. Raw power that rivals Homelander, combined with actual morality. He shows them what he can do. Not to intimidate, to prove he's an asset. He moves faster than a train, hits harder than Queen Maeve, sees through walls better than Translucent ever could. And most importantly, he doesn't kill. That last part almost ends the partnership before it starts. Butcher's entire philosophy revolves around permanent solutions. But Clark makes it clear, I'll help you expose them, dismantle Vought, and stop Homelander. Shiha philosophy. But we do it without becoming what we're fighting against. Hughie surprisingly takes Clark's side. Maybe because he's tired of all the blood. Maybe because he sees in Clark what superheroes should have been all along. They compromise. Clark will handle the frontline confrontations. The boys will handle intelligence, strategy, and the dirty work that doesn't require superpowers. Their first target is a smaller operation. Hughie's bold, a Vought black site where they're testing new Compound V variants on unwilling subjects. Clark wants to go in peacefully. Butcher wants explosives. They settle on Clark going in first, with the boys as backup if things get messy. The facility is hidden beneath a pharmaceutical company. Clark walks through the front door during business hours, takes the elevator down to the secret sublevels, and finds exactly what his X-ray vision already showed him. Dozens of people in cells, being injected with experimental compounds. Guards with weapons specifically designed to fight supes. Scientists who've convinced themselves they're doing important work. And at the center of it all, detailed records of every illegal experiment Vought has conducted for the past 20 years. Wop wop wah. Clark doesn't throw a single punch. GEC, how Jay-Z. He doesn't need to. He moves through the facility so fast that by the time anyone realizes what's happening, every guard is disarmed, every scientist is zip-tied, and every prisoner is freed. The whole operation takes 90 seconds. When the boys arrive, the facility is already secured and Clark is copying hard drives. Butcher stares at the scene. That's not natural, he mutters. No, Clark agrees, handing him a drive containing enough evidence to destroy Vought's public image. But it's necessary. Chevois, chevois, chevois. The evidence hits the internet within hours, not through official channels. Those are all controlled by Vought. Instead, it spreads through encrypted networks, independent journalists, and social media accounts that can't be traced back to the boys. By morning, the world knows what Vought has been doing in the shadows. Madeline Stillwell calls an emergency meeting. Homelander is pacing. He knows something has shifted. Someone is actively working against them, and it's not just Butcher's ragtag group anymore. This feels coordinated, professional, powerful. Clark watches the news coverage from a safe house in Brooklyn. Every major network is covering the leaked documents. Vought's stock price is plummeting. Government officials are demanding investigations. For the first time, the company is genuinely vulnerable. Quick first flash. But he knows this is just the opening move. Homelander responds exactly how Clark expects him to, with violence. A whistleblower who spoke to the press is found dead in an apparent suicide. A journalist investigating the story has a sudden heart attack. These aren't coincidences. They're warnings. Clark intercepts the third assassination attempt in real time. Homelander is moving toward a senator's home at 3 a.m. Clark gets there first. When Homelander arrives, he finds Clark standing on the lawn, arms crossed, completely calm. They stare at each other for a long moment. Homelander's smile doesn't reach his eyes. And who the hell are you supposed to be? Someone who's going to stop you. Dead ball, dead ball, dead ball. What follows isn't a fight. It's a statement. Homelander throws the first punch, expecting this new soup to crumble like everyone else who's ever challenged him. Instead, Clark doesn't move. The punch connects with his jaw and Homelander feels his knuckles crack against something harder than anything he's ever hit. Clark doesn't even blink. That's your best shot? For the first time in his life, Homelander feels something he's never experienced before. Fear. This person isn't just strong, he's stronger, faster, more durable. Everything Homelander has built his entire identity around. This stranger does better 205. The fight lasts 30 seconds. Clark doesn't use heat vision, doesn't throw devastating punches, doesn't try to kill. He simply restrains Homelander, pins him against the ground with one hand, and leans in close. You're going to leave the senator alone. You're going to stop killing people who speak out against Vought. And you're going to start wondering how many more like me are out there watching everything you do. He lets go and flies away before Homelander can respond. The psychological damage is already done. Homelander returns to Vought Tower shaking. Not from exertion, from the realization that he's not the apex predator anymore. Stillwell notices immediately. What happened? Homelander doesn't answer. He's staring at his bruised knuckles, trying to process what just occurred. In his mind, he's already creating explanations. Maybe the stranger caught him off guard. Maybe he was tired. Maybe next time will be different. But deep down, he knows the truth. Ha. Meanwhile, the boys are dealing with their own complications. Hughie is conflicted about their methods. Frenchie is fascinated by Clark's abilities. Mother's Milk is concerned about what happens when Vought realizes they have a Superman equivalent working against them. And Butcher is quietly planning contingencies because he doesn't trust anyone with that much power. Not even someone who claims to be a hero. Clark understands their hesitation. He's seen what power does to people in this world. Every member of the Seven is a cautionary tale, but he also knows something they don't. He's been tested by gods, fought alongside legends, and learned that power without responsibility is just tyranny with a cape. Vought's response comes faster than expected. They don't go after Clark directly. They can't. Instead, they pivot their entire PR strategy. They start a campaign painting him as a dangerous vigilante, an unregistered soup with no accountability, someone who operates outside the law and could turn violent at any moment. The irony isn't lost on anyone, but the strategy works. Public opinion starts shifting. People are scared of this new unknown force. They're comfortable with the Seven, despite everything. This stranger represents chaos. Clark watches the news coverage and makes a decision. If they want to know who he is, he'll tell them, not through Vought's controlled media. Through every independent platform simultaneously. He's going to do something Homelander never could. Tell the truth. Clark arranges a live broadcast that Vought can't control. Streaming platforms, independent networks, even pirate radio stations. He appears on camera not in a costume, but as himself. No mask, no theatrical presentation. Just someone explaining exactly what's happening. He details Vought's experiments, names names, shows evidence, explains how Compound V works, where it comes from, what it costs. He talks about the people who've been hurt, the cover-ups, the manufactured heroism. And then he does something that changes everything. He takes full responsibility for his actions, admits he's been working against Vought, confirms he's more powerful than anyone they've created. And then he says the words that make Homelander's blood run cold. I'm not the only one watching. There are others who won't tolerate what's been happening here. Vought's protection is gone. It's a bluff. Clark is the only one from his universe. But Homelander doesn't know that. Vought doesn't know that. The threat of multiple Superman-level beings working against them is enough to fracture their entire operation. Within days, high-level executives start flipping. Testimony floods in. The House of Cards collapses faster than anyone predicted. Homelander becomes increasingly unstable, but now he's too paranoid to act. Every shadow could be another threat. Every confrontation could be his last. The boys watch it all unfold from their hideout. Butcher finally speaks what everyone's thinking. You actually did it, didn't you? Changed the whole bloody game. Bage Hylof be of Ashley Horrors. We are also governors of beings quickly being. Hedge Holy did it, didn't you? Changed the whole bloody game. Clark looks at the team that took him in despite every reason not to. Someone had to. Your world deserves better than corporate-sponsored tyranny and capes. Hughie asks the question that's been on his mind since the beginning. What happens now? Clark Kent, the man from another universe who joined the most unlikely team imaginable, allows himself a small smile. Now we make sure it stays that way. Because that's what real heroes do.